Hi, it's Ruthie. Welcome to my channel if you're new here, and welcome back if you've been here. I got things. So today I'm going to talk about the pros and cons of having an ostomy bag and a J pouch. I'm not going to go too in-depth today about what my exact step-by-step surgical history has been, because if you make your way through my Ruthie Rambles playlist, you'll get all that information. I realized that I filmed those quite a while ago at this point, which is really crazy because it feels like yesterday that I did record those, but it wasn't. So I'm just gonna come at this from like my mind right now, and I'm assuming that there's gonna be a lot of things that I said in those videos that still applies now, but there's probably gonna be some different things as it's been a whole nother year of living with this J pouch in my body. So I want to start this off by saying that everyone's experience is so different, and what has happened to me is not going to be the same thing that happens to you, and it's not the same thing that's happened to anyone else. I'm just throwing this out there as an account of what I've experienced, so just give you an idea of what one person's experience is going through these things. It's not like whatever has happened to me is going to be the same thing that happens to you, or how I felt about an ostomy bag will be the same way you felt about it. My hope for this video is that it just gives you another person's input, another person's experience to add to the information that you're gathering in making this decision, because this is a big decision, you know, if you are lucky enough to be able to make the decision yourself. I never actually had a choice of whether to have this surgery or not. I had ulcerative colitis, and it progressed to the point where my doctors told me it was irreversible and I was just wasting away. I was like 100 pounds and I'm 5'11", so I was a skeleton and I couldn't eat anything, and the surgery was to save my life, basically. And I know that that is the case for a lot of people who have the J pouch surgery. It's not necessarily something that you choose to have. But a lot of the times where you do have a choice is getting the reversal or not. So I'm guessing that a lot of you watching this video, you might have a plan to get the ostomy bag or the colostomy bag. I'm not really sure if those are the same things or not. I think they kind of are though. But in the 3-step colectomy process that I had, first surgery was to remove my colon, and they added an ostomy bag. So they make the end of your small intestines like sticking out of your stomach, and then you have a bag that's on your stomach, and all your poop just goes into that bag. So I had that for about 6 months. And then the second surgery was to construct the J pouch, which is like they make a smaller colon thing out of your small intestine. So it functions just like a colon, it's just a lot smaller, so it needs to be emptied a lot more. And then I think there was a 3-month period where I waited. Once I had the J pouch constructed in me, it doesn't go into use right away. That period of time is so your body can get used to the J pouch itself before it goes into full use. So then after 6 months, I think, total of me having the ostomy bag, I had what's called the reversal surgery, where they reconnect the end of your small intestine to the J pouch itself and stitch you up so that your whole digestive system takes place inside of you. I know a lot of people who went years having their ostomy bag, and I know a lot of people who've chosen to keep their ostomy bag, because I'm sure, as you know, having ulcerative colitis or IBD, you spend so much of your life sitting on the toilet. Before my surgeries, I was spending 9 hours a day sitting on the toilet. So when I had the ostomy bag, I got 9 hours back to every day. It was amazing. It felt so liberating because I'm like, was sitting on the couch and I'm like, I'm pooping right now. And like, I could be hanging out with people. I could be living life. Like, you can't live life when you have to sit on the toilet for 9 hours a day or more. Anywhere more than an hour. Like, people shouldn't be spending that much of their time on the toilet. And I know when you do have IBD, you get so used to it and it seems like it is normal, and you kind of forget that life doesn't have to be that way. So I think a huge, huge pro of having this surgery is that you get your life back, at least when you have the ostomy bag. And that doesn't come with no cons. So I think I should preface this by saying that there are a lot of pros and there are a lot of cons. And I was made to believe that all my problems would go away if I had this surgery. And I want to get that out up front, that your problems don't fully go away after this surgery. And I know that that is really a hard thing to hear. not something you even want to believe. But living with an ostomy bag was, I think, it's so weird to say, but it was the closest to normal that I remember feeling, was the period of time I had an ostomy bag. I mean, obviously the biggest con is that you are pooping out of your stomach. So you don't have that clean stomach. I remember when I got the reversal and I would look down at my stomach, it was just the best feeling for me to not have a shit bag there. And I was like, it's heavy. Like, it's heavy stuff, especially if you're like a young woman. I don't know, just being 18 and pooping out of my stomach, like, and just carrying around a bag of my shit everywhere I went. And I'm just like, I don't want to live the rest of my life like this. Like, that's obviously the biggest con. On top of like the skin irritation that would happen, I had to change my bag at least 3 days a week. And it's like a whole process to change your bag because you can't eat too soon before you change it, because if you have like a naked stoma, you're not in control of when anything comes out. It's not like when you have to poop, you feel it coming and then you can go to the toilet and sit. It just comes out when it needs to come out. So when you're changing the bag, it's really a game of timing. Hopefully you get a long enough time where you can like clean the skin, put down all the protection on the skin, get the bag on before you start pooping again. So the biggest cons with having an ostomy is, for me, it was the skin irritation. I don't think everyone is as bad with that, because what comes out of your stoma, it's very like acidic and it just burns through your skin. So you really have to be, first of all, really hopeful that you have a good stoma and it's like a regular shape. I'm not really sure what makes a good stoma or a bad stoma, but I remember my doctor saying like, this is a perfect stoma. So like, I was really grateful that my surgeon gave me a good stoma. They also might have just been saying that to be nice, so I don't know. But even with a perfect stoma, I had so many problems with skin irritation and the bag and just like the mechanics of it. Also, another con would be just the amount of supplies, just boxes like stacked full of all the supplies, like, because you can't run out of bags, obviously, so you need to have like a heavy back stock. It makes like traveling anywhere really difficult. It's just like, that's an obvious con, like just so the amount of things that you need when you have an ostomy bag was a lot. How vulnerable I felt was a huge con, like just a piece of your organ sticking out of your stomach, and like if someone were to like pull the bag, or like, I don't know, I would like almost throw up sometimes thinking about if like it got snagged on something, or like if it exploded somewhere, where like if I couldn't empty it fast enough, like just nightmare things. I do know that there are companies that make a lot of solutions to problems that ostomy bags have. Like, I'm sure they make bigger bags, like if you know that you're not going to be near a toilet very often, so that you could have like a big one with you. And I'm sure that there are people who are thinking up solutions to a lot of these problems now. I mean, it's been 7 years since I had an ostomy bag, so I would assume that there are a lot more solutions to these problems. So obviously there are big cons to having an ostomy bag, but there are also huge, huge pros. And I think the biggest pro is that you get your life back. You can be pooping wherever you happen to be, and you don't have to run to a toilet. And that was like, that made everything worth it. Like all the cons I just listed, just that fact alone, I was like, I'd rather this than having colitis. It was the biggest relief for me to have an ostomy bag when I first got it. Also, another huge pro, I think, would be how connected I felt to my digestive system. And I felt like I really learned so much about my body during that period, because you can just see exactly how things pass through your body. I remember one time I ate something that had corn in it, and it was like a curry thing, and I wasn't even fully aware it had corn in it. But like, when all the stuff would come out, you can feel the texture of the output in your bag. And I would feel like full kernels of corn. Nothing changed about the corn. So you get to learn like what foods your body actually absorbs. Like if you eat something and not that much comes out into the bag, then you're like, okay, my body absorbed a lot of that. Or if you're eating something and it just comes out within 5 minutes right into the bag, you're like, all right, that kind of just went right through me. You just get to learn like the speed of your digestion and what your body likes. Certain things would feel like really painful when it came out of my stoma. I remember if I didn't chew something enough, That's a huge thing you have to do with a J pouch or an ostomy bag, is just chew like a mad person and just chew, 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 and make it mush in your mouth, because however you swallow it is how it's going to go through you and come out of you. So if you're swallowing big chunks of things, it's going to be more painful coming out of your stoma, coming out of your behind, like wherever it comes out, and the places it moves through. Like if there's inflammation and the path in your intestines is smaller and like swollen, it's going to have a harder time going through those areas. So I think I just learned so much about the way my digestive system works, and that was really a huge pro, I think, because a lot of those things that I learned when I had the ostomy bag are relevant to me now, and it's like a red pill situation. Like I can't go back. I feel like I know so much about my digestive system now that like I'm never gonna unlearn. I'm sure there's more pros and cons of ostomy bags that I'm missing, but a huge, huge pro is also that you are a complete badass if you have an ostomy bag, because it's not something that I think many people could handle or accept about your life. So I think if you do have an ostomy bag, it's a big, big opportunity for you to like radically love yourself and accept all of the things. Because if you can love yourself like while you have a shit bag, like there's nothing that's going to take that away from you. It honestly, in a really weird way, it felt empowering to have an ostomy bag. And there's a lot of ways to look at it, and I think the most empowering and best way I would look at it at times would be as this thing saved my life. Like the reason I am alive is because of this. And my ostomy bag, my stoma were just a constant reminder to me just how blessed I am to still be here, and how if I lived in any other time period, I may not have been able to say the same thing. So it made me really grateful for just modern medicine, just the fact that I live in a place that I can have a surgery like this. It was just a real reality check, and it put so much into perspective. Like things I used to care about and worry about just like weren't even on my radar. It was like, I'm alive, and like this bag right here is letting me be alive. And just having that deeper connection to your body, to your digestive system, it makes life feel a lot more precious. And that is, I think, priceless. So yeah, I think that's the gist of pros and cons for having an ostomy bag. So I'm gonna go into a J pouch now. So I wanna preface the pros and cons of a J pouch with saying that this has occurred in waves for me. Like sometimes the cons are a lot louder than the pros, and sometimes the pros are a lot louder than the cons. So this isn't really like a clear, straightforward, having a J pouch is way better. It's a really complicated decision in general. I'm kind of weighing it against having an ostomy bag right now, and I think something to keep in mind is that you can always go back to having an ostomy bag. Like yes, you would need another surgery, of course, which would suck, but for me, I was like, there's no loss in trying out the J pouch, because if it doesn't work, I can just go back to the ostomy. And the ostomy I already was living with, and I knew the pros and cons that I felt in that 6-month period of having time. There might have been more pros and cons that would have come up if I had the ostomy bag for longer, which I wasn't really interested in finding out. I was just very determined to not have an ostomy bag. So I think a huge pro for me right off the bat when I got my J pouch was that it wasn't an ostomy bag. And I was so happy to feel a little bit more normal and to just be going to the bathroom like everyone else and not having this extra thing on me. And I had heard of the risks of having a J pouch and how it doesn't necessarily work for everyone, or a lot of people would have issues with having a J pouch. But I just felt like there was no loss in trying, because if it didn't work, I could just go right back to the ostomy at any point. So I'm like, if there's a shot at me having a normal way to go to the bathroom, I want to try. It made me feel better to just give it a shot. But I know a lot of people who did not feel that way. And as soon as they had the ostomy bag, they knew that they wanted to keep it, because they're like, this is like a million times better than it was before. I don't want to go to the bathroom normally because there's just so much trauma in their rectum or anus, that whole area, and you just don't want that to even be in the equation anymore. So it really is so individual. I think that can be said across the board with all of these things. Everyone's experience is so different. First thing that made me so upset when I first got my J pouch was that there is such a thing as pouchitis. It is literally colitis, but in your J pouch. And I was so pissed when I found out that that was a thing, because the whole thing that the doctors told me beforehand was no colon, no colitis. And I'm like, that makes sense. Colitis is the inflammation of your colon. If I don't have a colon, then nothing can be inflamed. Awesome. But pouchitis, oh, you forgot to tell me that you can have inflammation in your J pouch. Which is like, I actually only had a pouchitis flare up one time, and it's 2022. It's been 7 years living with a J pouch now. It's so weird to say. Yeah, it's been 7 years that I've had a J pouch, and I've only had one pouchitis flare, and it went away really quickly with whatever medication they give you for that. I forget the name of it right now. But I do know a lot of people who have flares like at least once a year. My uncle, who had the same surgery done, he has pouchitis flare-ups like once a year. And I'm not really sure what makes that better or worse. A lot of the cons that come to mind for me when I think about having a J pouch are really based on what my expectations were versus the reality of what this is for me. And I think my expectations going into having a J pouch was that I was gonna feel normal again, and I wasn't going to have to go to the bathroom as much, and I could eat more things. And I'm not sure if the cons would be any different if I had managed my expectations going into this process, but I didn't. So I'm just speaking from where I was before and where I'm at now. The main thing about a J pouch is that it's about, I think they say like 8 times smaller than a colon. So it doesn't hold as much. And I've had a lot of complications with overeating or eating too fast where I get blockages. And I have videos where I talk about it, but I've had a bunch of bowel obstructions because of scar tissue blocking the path, like just different like mechanical complications in my organs having to do with having the J pouch. So that was something I did not think would happen. Like I said, I really thought I would be able to be normal and eat normal after the surgeries. So that was a huge, huge bummer, and I think a huge con. And I think a lot of the cons have to do with diet, to be honest. And again, I'm not sure if that's because of what my expectations were going into it, but I honestly think it sucks regardless. You really have to stay away, or at least I've been told, and from experimenting, you have to really stay away or be very weary of raw fruits and vegetables. And that sucks. Like, I really miss salad. I never thought I would miss salad, but just like having something cold and crunchy and like biting into an apple and like, I mean, you can do these things, but you're kind of playing with fire, I think. Like, I think when I've gotten blockages in the past, it's because I've had raw fruits or vegetables. It's because the same thing that I said with having an ostomy bag, however you swallow something is how it moves through you. And if you think about chewing down a cold apple, or if you think about chewing lettuce, uncooked greens, like there's gonna be big flakes of these things going through you and coming out of you. And it's not gonna be that mushy texture that is really the easiest for your body to digest. Certain flare-ups that I've gone into since having a J pouch, I really go back to just baby food. I will puree all my food. Like, I can have rice and chicken, but I just puree it all, or just straight up will go to the store and get baby food. But it's honestly way cheaper to just make it yourself. So like mashed sweet potatoes, like just mushy things, so that my body doesn't have to work on breaking down that stuff, because a J pouch is not the same thing as a colon. It can't break down as much stuff that a colon breaks down. It can't hold as much as a colon would hold. And that's a huge bummer. Like, I mean, I think that has a lot to do with what my expectations were again, but you know, it's really, really sucks to think about the cons of having a J pouch. because it's my life right now. Like, I think it was a lot easier for me to think of the cons of having an ostomy bag because it's over and I can be like, well, that chapter is closed and it sucked. These are the things that sucked about it. But when I just even try to bring my head to think about the cons of having a J pouch, it makes me really depressed, honestly. Like, I don't want to think about it. And honestly, like, I think I've said this in some videos before, but I'm sorry that I don't post videos here as much as I kind of want to and as much as some of you guys might want to if you like these videos. And I don't want to like apologize too much for things that I know it's okay, but that's a big reason. I don't want people to assume that like my story's over and that like everything is good now, you know, like she had an ostomy bag, she has a J pouch and life is good because look at, she's good, she's happy, she's whatever. And I don't really like to film these videos when I'm not feeling good because obviously I don't really feel like putting on makeup and talking to a camera when I'm feeling like shit, which is honestly more often than I want to admit. So just this is bringing up a lot for me, just thinking about the cons of having a J pouch because there are a lot of fucking cons. I'm not gonna lie. It's not that great. It's like I said, I think the biggest pro is that it's not an ostomy bag. And for me to think about that and the negative things about having a J pouch just being like my diet, the fact that I still have accidents, like the past 2 nights in the middle of the night, I had an accident. Like I don't have as good of control over my bowel movements. My urgency has been up lately. I honestly, it feels very reminiscent of a low-grade flare-up when I had colitis. And it's almost kind of worse because it's a J pouch and it's not a colon and it holds less and it's just not. It's just not what I thought it was going to be. Oh, I don't want to cry in this. I mean, for me, having a J pouch, I am healthier and can tolerate more food. But you know, also when I think back to having colitis with my colon and just the sickest that I would get and the quality of my life before the surgeries, it's not like it was better. Like, I think just thinking about pros and cons in general, I think thinking about pros and cons in general with having a J pouch, it's leading me to compare what it's like to an ostomy bag, which is better, and compare what it's like to having a colon, which is better. But it still sucks. Like, I don't feel normal. I have to go to the bathroom so often. Like, I go to the bathroom probably like 6 to 8 times a day. I poop. Let me just be frank about it. I poop like 6 to 8 times a day. Sometimes it's really painful. Sometimes I still feel backed up. Sometimes I poop my pants in the middle of the night and have to clean up the bed in the middle of the night. And like, my life it just sucks. It's like, it's better, but my life is still this. So, you know what? Oh! This is why I don't film these videos. Oh, it's hard to talk about this shit. I think sometimes I get into a state of mind where I'm like, oh, I can talk about this stuff, so I might as well talk about it on the internet to people because I know not everyone can talk about this stuff. But it's like, can I talk about this stuff? Like, it's still hard as shit to talk about for me. And it's like, ugh. Yeah, all in all, having a J pouch is better than having an ostomy bag. It's better than it was having colitis with a colon, but it's still not great. It still sucks a lot of the time. And I don't want this video to be discouraging or upsetting for anyone. looking for like a glimmer of hope of like, oh, maybe if I have a J pouch, then life will be better if you're in the latter. And like, it might be for you. I also could see a future with me having a reversal back to having an ostomy bag. I see that as a potential future for me. A life is long if we're lucky. So I'm not ruling that out as being a thing because the J pouch has not been perfect by any means. I've had a lot of additional surgeries with the J pouch. So it's frustrating. It's really frustrating. So I don't want this to be discouraging for you or make you upset in any way, but I also don't want to give you a false sense of hope. I don't want to be out here on the internet being like, my life is totally fixed because I had this surgery done. Like, I'm not getting sponsored by anyone, but I'm not getting sponsored by J-pouch surgeries or whatever. So I'm just trying to be really real about it. And the fact of the matter is that for me, my life is better than before, but it's not great, and that's the reality. That's my reality. And this is also how I'm feeling right now because I've had a tough few months. I think I've been like slowly flaring up. I'm not really sure what's going on with my digestive system, but it hasn't been great recently. And I've just kind of passed a year anniversary since my last surgery. And it's just kind of a thing of like, I'm just always waiting for the next shoe to drop. Like, I'm just waiting for the next surgery. And it feels like sometimes. And my state of mind shifts a lot. I think sometimes I feel really hopeful about my future and like I can look at surgeries as being like, okay, well, I'm not in the hospital right now and I'm not having a surgery right now, so I might as well live my life as best as I can, do the things that make me happy and just experience all the joys that life has to offer and put myself in a position to fully appreciate the joys that life has to offer. But I think other times I can slip into a state of mind, which I think I've been in this state of mind more often than I'd like to be lately. But I think I've just been thinking about things of like, what's the point of doing anything if I'm just going to be sick in a month, or if I'm going to be in surgery, or if I'm going to be in the hospital soon. Like, it feels like pointless to even try to be healthy because I'm like, even when I try so fucking hard and I do every single thing that you're supposed to do, I do yoga like 3 times a day. I will eat nothing but organic food and I will walk often and I'll just do all of the things. I'll do all the things you're supposed to do if you want to be healthy and I'll still be sick. Like, it's so disheartening because I'm just like, what's the point? Like, I might as well just veg out and have like potato chips and watch TV all day. But I know that's not the answer either because on the days when I do that, I feel even more like shit, So it's like, it just feels like I'm doing the most for the bare minimum. And from some conversations I've had with other people in the situation, that seems pretty normal. That seems kind of expected. Which is such a bummer because it's like, you have to do so much more than the average person to be in a state that like the average person would consider really sick, like if the pain in my stomach and in my body is like a general 5 for the day, like that is great, I don't even know, I don't remember what it's like to have a 0 on the pain scale. Like, it does not compute with my body or brain to even like consider that. So it feels like I just have to bust my ass for the bare minimum, for feeling generally okay. That sucks, but I think I'm not totally giving up the hope of, if I stick with doing all the healthy things and just trying to live my life to the best of my ability, to the healthiest of my ability, I'm not fully giving up hope that maybe one day I can feel like that optimal state of health. Sometimes I do strive for that and I do really hold that hope in my heart that like that's a possibility in my future. Other times I feel like holding that hope is just kind of like this carrot that's being dangled, whatever that like thing is, it's like this unreachable thing that I know is unreachable, and it ends up discouraging me more. And I'm just like, okay, why don't I just manage my expectations and not even let that be a possibility in my head, and just kind of accept the fact that I'm always going to be a little bit sick, or I'm not going to feel 100%. And that's a hard thing to accept too. And it's like, I think my greatest advice I can give for this whole thing is to just talk it out and talk to people who can understand. Search for a therapist who is familiar with chronic illness and IBD, because I think a lot of these things I'm expressing right now have a lot to do with just chronic illness in general. I don't think it has to be IBD. This feeling of loss, like you are grieving your past self, like you're grieving a future self that you envisioned that you know can never exist, or you're losing hope that that future self that you envisioned can even exist. And that is a huge loss. And we are grieving that loss, I think, all the time. And grief comes in waves. And if we are grieving ourselves, and if we are grieving our past self, our potential future self, our current self, if we're in this state of grief, like, that is okay. And that is somewhat expected. And there's nothing wrong with you if you're feeling this way. Honestly, you're probably reacting in a very rational way. And that's what I have to keep reminding myself, that it is okay to not feel okay. It is okay to feel bad. It is okay to feel really shitty. It is okay to feel upset and bitter about your circumstances, because, you know, there's nothing that you did to deserve this. This isn't punishment. That's another kind of wave I go into sometimes, is like, am I being punished? Like, is my body punishing me for something I did? Like, fuck. But you're not being punished. You know, I made a video, Lessons and Blessings from Chronic Illness, and I think I need to watch that right now, because it's things that you forget. And as much as I don't want to be crying right now, part of me is pretty glad that, like, I can also document this side of myself, because I think I have mostly documented versions of me that's feeling really hopeful, and like chronic illness and IBD and all these surgeries have been an ultimate blessing in my life, which I do wholeheartedly believe, and I know that in my core. But there are some times, and I think now is a time where that is really hard for me to accept and hard for me to believe fully. But I know that that is the truth, and I'm holding that truth within me, but it's hard to access that truth, or it's hard to, like, feel like that is the loudest voice that's, like, guiding my actions and my emotions. And I want you to know that it is completely okay if you feel like shit.
Hello, Editing Ruthie here to chime in. So after I recorded this, I had a therapy session with my brand new therapist, who I'm really, really loving a lot. I'm starting to be able to see a bit clearer where I'm getting stuck in my way of thinking. And, you know, I think, oh my God, also editing this, the amount of times I say, you know, and like, and it's... Anyway, a really great point that she brought up was the idea of reframing my J pouch as thinking about it as, this is something that saved my life. And it was crazy that she said that, because as you heard earlier, I said that the most positive way I would look at my ostomy bag was by, like, looking at it and saying, like, this saved my life, like, this is the reason I'm alive. But I think once I had the reversal and everything was stitched back up and inside of me and I couldn't see it anymore, I was just kind of like, okay, all done with that. Move on to, like, the next stage of my life. I'm just not going to think about that anymore. And now when my symptoms worsen, I think of it as, like, my body is broken, or, like, my stomach is fucked up, or I'm not thinking about it as like my J pouch. A really solid tip she gave is to speak to and speak about my J pouch as like, this thing saved my life. And it just kind of blew my mind because I was like, I've done this. Like, this is the way I would look at my ostomy bag, but I never even considered bringing that same type of thought and language when I think and talk about my J pouch. So that's something I'm going to try catching myself with and implementing more into my life. And also, another great tip that she brought up that was something I actually did when I had my ostomy bag, but I just completely forgot about, is writing a letter to your colon or to your ostomy or to your J pouch. And somewhere in my journals, I wrote a letter to my colon and a letter to my ostomy bag, just getting out whatever you need to get out. And you can be really angry at first. You can kind of get all your anger out. Like, I think I cursed out my colon a bunch and was just like pissed at my colon in my letter, if I remember correctly. But then ultimately I was like, well, thank you for trying, thanks for trying to be an effective organ for me. But I guess you need to leave. You need to tap out. It's something along those lines. I'd actually be really curious to find that. I'll probably do a separate video talking more about like the letters, but for now, my mission is to actually write a new letter and write a letter to my J pouch, which I've never done before, and not think too much about what I'm going to say, not worry about anyone else reading it. I'm not going to put the pressure on myself to share it with you guys. And if you go and do this, I don't think you should put pressure on yourself to share it with anyone either. And just write it from the point of like, this is just for you. This is just for you and your body part, whichever one you need to write the letter to. And just get all your feelings out. Get all the anger and disappointment and just all the shit out, and probably a lot of sorrow. See if there's any gratitude underneath all of that. See if there's any space for forgiveness ultimately. But maybe not, don't put any expectations on yourself for like what's going to come out of you. But you can let this be just a pure exercise and maybe do it like a few sentences, like once a day, or maybe once a week, and just see what comes out. If you were to just close your eyes and imagine like if your J pouch was a person in your life and just thinking about the way that your J pouch makes you feel. Like if you think about people in your life and the way they make you feel, communicating or writing to your J pouch how it makes you feel. And I know it's going to be a really hard exercise. That's why I haven't done it yet. And my therapist brought it up to me on Friday. Well, I guess it was just the weekend. I do plan on doing this, and I will most likely share some of my insights. I'm not sure that I will read the whole letter to you guys, just because, like I said, I think it's really special to keep things private and just have moments that are purely yours, especially in this day and age where like it seems like everything is public and out there for everyone to see. I think it's really precious to keep things to yourself. So I think those two things are really, really important insights that I wanted to make sure I included in this video. And one more thing I noticed when I was editing this, especially when I was crying and getting really upset, is the way I'm thinking about it is really hyper focusing on where I'm lacking and the things that I don't have going for me. And I think particularly the spot when I'm saying that I feel like I have to do the most for the bare minimum. And it became like just a glaring thing to me when watching it, as like, that is true for so many people and in so many different aspects of life. And that thought pattern and that focusing in on like my health and like I have to do the most for the bare minimum for feeling good, healthily and all that. Like so many people can say that in regards to their health, as well as in regards to like moving up professionally. Like if you're a minority or if you are disabled in another visible way or mentally ill, like all of these stigmas that our society has, like that's what it does. It makes you do the absolute most for the bare minimum. And I just wanted to make sure I didn't come across as like having like a pity party for myself, because I am like up there with when it comes to privilege. And I'm so grateful that I have all of these great things going for me in just who I am, how I carry myself, the way I look. I am a white, cisgendered, conventionally attractive woman, and I'm tall. I think there's privilege with being tall too when you get older. When you're young, it definitely sucks. But I'm naturally thin, just like check, check, check on all the things that like society holds in high regard. So I think it's still necessary that I, for myself, acknowledge it's really hard and difficult for me to come to a place where I feel physically healthy and feel able to do life and just to participate in the world around me. I don't want to like wash over parts of my life that are really difficult and hard by saying, well, look at all like the privilege you have, you know? But I don't want to forget about it either. I think there has to be that like middle ground of like acknowledging the privileges that I have and being so incredibly deeply grateful for that. And at the same time, acknowledging where it's hard, just what your reality is, you know, acknowledge where you are above average, where you are maybe handed a really great hand and very privileged and very blessed, and also where there's pain and suffering in your life. I think our tendency is to be very black and white and be looking at like all of the good or all of the bad and just staying focused on the ends of the spectrum. So I actively try to notice when I'm doing that stuff and find that middle place, find that middle path, and just be like, it's all here, it's all true. I don't have to pick one or the other. I can be everything. I can contain multitudes, and everyone does. And I think the more that we acknowledge this stuff within ourselves, we'll be able to acknowledge that stuff in the people around us as well. And it's just going to improve the way everyone communicates with each other, the way everyone sees each other, and just up that empathy and compassion that we have for the people in our communities and the people around the world. Because, you know, we all are everything. We don't fit in boxes. Humans are not the shape of boxes. We do not fit comfortably in them. And we have a real tendency to put ourselves in boxes and therefore put other people in boxes and don't give them that space to grow. So accepting that the only constant is change, and that is perfect. And that's what we're meant to do. So yeah, that was just some stuff that I wanted to make sure I got in this video, but I will probably talk more down these paths in future videos. So okay, bye.
A lot of the talk these days is kind of about erasing negative feelings and like purifying yourself and just throwing love and light on everything. And darkness is just as much a part of life as the light. And you can't have light without darkness. Like if everything was light, it would just be dull. Like it would be nothing. Like you need that darkness too. And I say this in my meditations all the time, that analogy of the moon and how like in ancient astrology, the moon represents our body, our physical body, and the sun represents our soul. And the moon, it doesn't have a light of its own. Our body doesn't have a light of its own. It is matter. The moon is matter. But the moon is reflecting the light of the sun, and our body is reflecting the light of our soul, our inner light in us. And at times, we are a full moon, and we are completely illuminated by the light in our soul, and we are bright, we are shining down, we are sharing that light, we are guiding others through the night, through the darkness with our light. And there are other times when we are a new moon. We're still there, but we are not reflecting any light, and we are in this cocoon of sorts, and we might feel lost in the dark, and like nobody can see us fully, you know, and then there's all the stages in between. Like you can be partially illuminated, partially in the dark, and mostly in the dark, you know, like there's all the different phases of the moon. And the moon is not meant to stop at one phase and be there all the time. We are not meant to have a full moon all of the time. And we are not meant to feel that way all of the time. We are not meant to feel completely amazing and vibrating and whole and holy and all of the good things all the time. We have to be a new moon at times. So that is like the greatest comfort to me when I'm in these phases, is just remembering that this is normal and I am meant to move through these phases. And even when I'm feeling so in the dark, I will feel whole again. Like, you will go through these phases throughout the rest of your life. And sometimes the greatest source of our suffering is just trying to stop at one phase and stay there, or trying to just erase the change in life. Because as we all know, the one constant in life is change. And there will be times when you feel so good. And when you feel so good, you're going to be like, I've always felt this way. This is the way that life has always been. I always will feel this way. Like, this is great. And then there will be times when you feel so dark and so depressed and so in a hole. And the same thing will be true then. Like, you're going to feel like you've always felt this way. This is how you're always going to feel. You've never felt any different. And that's that, you know, but you will get through it. You will go through the next phase because you have to. There are certain things we can do to, I think, move on to the next phase a bit quicker. And there are things we can do to slow ourselves down, you know, and stay in the phases longer. And regardless of what you do, you will move on to the next phase. I thought of an analogy once that was, I felt like when I was stuck in a depression hole for like months, where I was like, I have been a new fucking moon for months now. Like, when is the next phase coming? And like, just really analyzing it all and like being like, well, maybe that's why I'm depressed. Maybe this is why I'm depressed. Maybe this because of this, blah, 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 blah. Just like thinking about it so much. I felt like another saying that is really helpful in this situation is every storm runs out of rain. And I felt like what I was doing was like the rain was like trying to come and pass over me, but I was just running alongside the storm and like looking really closely at the clouds and just like trying to figure out like, why is the storm here? Where did the clouds come from? Where are they going? Like, what, you know, and just like making myself stay in it for longer than I needed to. And then I thought of like, you know, what if I just sit down and let the rain pass over me and not try to run along and catch up with it and figure it out, like, but just have a seat and feel the rain and let it go. That was really helpful in that scenario. I don't know. There's a lot of things that can be helpful. We all have different keys to the same door. You know, we all have different keys that will unlock that deeper understanding of yourself, because we're all different people. We are all humans. We are all one in a way here on this earth, moving through cycles. But, you know, we are all so different, and we all have our own past experiences that contribute to the way we're feeling. We all have different people surrounding us. We're in different environments and ecosystems. Like, there are so many factors that change the way that you feel and your attitude and your outlook on these situations, and that will change what you consider to be a pro and what you consider to be a con. And like, something that is a con for you today, you might look at in a different state of mind and it's a pro. These things are just always changing. And I think as much as you can just trust yourself and trust that whatever it is, whatever experience you go through, it's your experience to go through. And we are just here to like learn a list of lessons. You'll learn lessons to things and you'll forget them a few weeks later. So I think it's just our job to just be vigilant, be aware of what's going on for you and in your body and in your heart and in your mind, and find whatever peace and acceptance you can with what you've been given. And, you know, there's no universal tip for that. I mean, I guess a universal tip is just the first step, acknowledging what it is that is the problem. And, you know, I don't even know how I started talking about all of this, but it got me out of crying, so I'm happy with that. This video was really supposed to just stick to a clean pros and cons list, but I'm gonna do my best to edit this down to a comprehensive order, but I'm also gonna try to stay true to like what has just gone through me and how I just released it, because yeah. Also, you know, let yourself cry. It is okay to cry. But yeah, that felt like therapy for me. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Like I said, I have a bunch of other videos where I talk about life with a J pouch and chronic illness and living with an ostomy bag and all those things. So Please check out those videos. If you have any other questions or comments, you can write it down in the comments below. You can always feel free to reach out to me too. You can reach out to me via DM on Instagram or email or just whatever way you can find to contact me. I'm sure you can find some ways to contact me. So please feel free to reach out if you have any specific questions or advice or anything. If you just want to talk, if you just need to vent to someone who understands what you're going through a little bit. There are a lot of us out here who experience these surgeries and IVD and ostomy bags and J pouches and all that, but it is rare to come across someone just in your walking life who has gone through these things. So grateful for the internet, so grateful that, you know, we can find other people who are like us. This is a lot to understand for someone who hasn't experienced it. So here for you, and I really hope that this was helpful to you in some way, shape, or form. I also have a speak pipe set up, so you can leave me a voice message if you'd like. Oh yeah, one more thing. I also do live guided meditations on Insight Timer, so I will leave the link to that down in the description. So if you want to join me on Mondays and Fridays, typically 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can join me there and, you know, go through a little guided meditation with me that will hopefully make you feel good. I think that's about it. Wow, that was like a roller coaster. Okay. Thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and share with the people in your life. See you in the next video. Okay, bye. I got bang. Okay. Let's go. Lip gloss is so sticky. I do what I want to do. I do what I like. I do what I want to do. Yeah, I do what I like. All right, thank you guys. Love you guys. I say guys. Oh, that was something I wanted to stop saying. Shit. I do what I want to do. I do what I like.